Okay, it looks like we are live. Perfect. All right, so I titled this Real Talk, and here's why. So earlier today, well, here's the thing. Let's start with present and let's go back to the past. Okay. So right now, presently, I have a splitting headache. Like it's not even funny. I've had a headache all day, all day. When did it start, you may ask? So yeah, it actually started this morning, and let's talk about this morning. So, every morning I walk the dog in the back by the bayou because I can take him off leash and he can run and sniff stuff and get into things and run around. So, I do that pretty much every morning so that I can start my work day and he's not bothering me and running all over the house. And so, oh goodness, there's this guy, and so there's this woman that lives in my building, and she has a bigger dog, and I frequently see her walking the dog, and she just lives by herself. Well, I've never seen anyone else around until a couple of weeks ago. I start seeing this guy come around and he's bringing his little dog, right? So I'm assuming this is her boyfriend because, he's staying over, blah, 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 whatever. So I'm like, cool. I bumped into them like once when I was back there and they were both back there together. So I was like, okay, you know, that's fine. And I had a previous interaction with this guy when I was walking down the sidewalk and it was like dark, it was like 11 o'clock at night. And this guy is like he was staring me down, like squinting into the dark, trying to like get a better look at me. And I was like, I understand if you like see somebody and maybe you like glance at them for a second, but it wasn't a glance, it was a stare. It was a stare, like a squint and lean your head in kind of a stare. And I was just very uncomfortable by that because this is a big man, okay, and I'm a small female. Anyways, and so I that moment passed, but I always just kind of have like a kind of a feeling. So I see him this morning, and the woman, she goes to work. And I only know that because whenever I walk my dog at around like 6 or so, she's typically like already gone because like her car is gone. And the only reason why I know her car is because she has the same kind of car as my sister. It's a very obvious car, and there's not very many of them. So yeah. Anyways, so she's not home at this point because she goes to work, and this guy's walking her dog and his dog. Um, and so I'm already feeling anxious. My heart's kind of like, oh no, because I already had that previous interaction with him that wasn't very pleasant. Um, and then, um, so I see him and I have Azazio on the leash because the last time when I was back there and he was back there with her, Zazio wasn't on the leash and he was running around trying, say hello just because he's friendly, but it was a whole thing. So I had him on the leash, and so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna briefly say hello, be nice, and then continue on my way. So I said hello. Well, I don't sound like a lot of the people here. And so he immediately knew I wasn't from around here. So then he starts asking questions. And some of those questions were, oh, are you a teenager? And I was like, no, I'm like, I've graduated college. Like, no. Um, and it's just questions after questions. And then he was asking me, how long I had been here, what things have I done around here. And I was, telling him some of the things. At first I was thinking, okay, maybe he's just being nice. Maybe that first interaction was just bad, just a bad impression. Maybe he's not a bad guy, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's just being nice, trying to suggest things to do around town since I'm not from around here. The whole time, he never mentions, because I asked him, like, oh, are you from around here? And he's like, oh, no, I come up here sometimes. He left out the part of sometimes when he visits his girlfriend, but it's like, why he left that part out? And so I'm just like, okay, whatever. And so I was getting ready to leave, and then he's all like, well, you wanna meet up here same time tomorrow? And I was like, I have work. Bye. And I zipped out of there. But it was just like, you have a girlfriend. Like, I am 99.9% that they are dating. They have to be. So I don't know. It just gave me like this icky feeling. Um, and so yeah, I'm just like, a part of the two reasons why it just kind of was like, ugh, a couple of reasons. So the first one is because, one, that I had a bad interaction with him the first time when he was staring me down, and I thought, this guy's a creep and blah blah blah. I was going on a whole rant about him, to my fiance, going on a whole rant. And then um and so I see him, and so I'm immediately like, my heart's racing, but I was like, I'm gonna give this guy the benefit of a doubt. Maybe he's not so bad. I'm just gonna say hello and be friendly. I'm not gonna like zoom away like he's some creepy creep, right? I'm gonna be friendly as he's just a normal person. And then we started having a normal conversation, and I was thinking to myself, okay, he's not so bad. Just a regular guy. Maybe he thought I was somebody that he knew when he was, trying to squint to get a better look. Okay, maybe he wasn't being creepy after all. And then he tries to be like, oh, let's meet up again tomorrow. Same time. I'm just like, and there it is, right? You have a girlfriend. You literally are seeing someone else, and you're over here while she's at work. You're over here trying to pick up somebody else. And I'm so now I was just walking the dog a little bit ago, and I seen her. She came home, and then they grabbed the dogs, and then they were heading back out to the bayou, like where they walk at night. Um, and I mean, I only know that because I've walked there a couple times, and they've been there. So sometimes I'll not go there when I see that they're back there. But it's just like, now I just have this ugh kind of a feeling, because I look at the woman, and I'm just like, do you even know the kind of person that you're dating? Because and then it's like, do I say something? Like, do I say something to her? Because, you know, we're not friends. I don't know her. Sometimes I try to smile at her and she just kind of glares. I don't know. She always seems like she's in a bad mood, so I, don't really engage. But I talk to everybody in the complex that has dogs. Like, I like to talk to everybody. So I don't know. She just not I don't know. She just wasn't super friendly, so I just try to, I don't try to go up there and be friends with her. But now that I see that she's with this guy who's over here trying to actively cheat on her, is and maybe he already is. I don't know. But it just left a bad stain on my morning, and then it just kind of carried over for the whole day. Like, I've had this headache, like this kind of a stress tension headache all day, all day. So I came in here not really interested in taking any trades. Not really, just because, like I said, I am not feeling super great. Um, so yeah, there were two opportunities here, but I'm only starting from when I came in, which was what, 7:25. Yeah, I was on a whole 10-minute rant, 9-minute rant. So yeah, 7:25. So we came in here. So there have been no trade opportunities yet. Um, but yeah, I'm just gonna move this over so I can look at it over here. But yeah, so like I was saying, just and then I had to take the dog to the vet because I don't know if his sutures, so he had sutures, and then I don't know if they were external sutures that were supposed to come out, but they didn't because nobody ever said, oh, his external sutures need to come out. So I don't know what that was, or if they were internal and then they maybe somehow popped out. I'm not sure. So I take him to the vet. Thankfully, that did not cost the fortune I was assuming it was going to cost. So there's that. That was good. Um, yeah, other than that, it's not, I didn't really accomplish too much. Like, as far as work goes, I basically just sent a message to my boss and I was like, I still don't have the material to work with. And then she finally had someone else send it to me. And then I was like, cool. And then, yeah. So I have stuff to do tomorrow for sure. But just today was a very, very odd day. Very odd day. Um, yeah, if you notice, when I come in here, I don't really do a lot of market talk. And that's mainly because, if you want to hear market talk, go watch another channel. I know there are plenty of people out there who love to talk about the market and they know all these things and they can point you in the right direction. But me, I'm just here to trade, okay? I know about, like, price action and all of that stuff, but I really am not here to pretend to be an expert on anything. So, um, yeah. So, I don't know. Today, it wasn't a bad day. So yeah, Zazio. So yeah, I did have to give him like a gabapentin so that he was kind of sedated for when they took his sutures out so that he wasn't squirming all over the place. He did really good, honestly. But it's so funny, Okay, you go to a vet's office and they're like, "Don't be late, otherwise we're gonna charge you." But then, guess what they do? They show up 30 minutes late to the appointment. Like, what? Like, you don't, if I'm 30 minutes late, you know, there's like a fee, or there's a no refund, or there's some sort of a fee if I'm 30 minutes late. But if you're 30 minutes late, then it's just oh, sorry about that. Like, what? I don't know. That's kind of annoying to me. But so we were literally sitting because we got there 5 minutes before, well, 3 minutes before, and then we weren't seen until 30, yeah, about 35 minutes after the appointment, almost 35 minutes after the appointment was supposed to start. So, anyways, um, so after that, I canceled my fitness class today because I was like, well, um, if he's gonna be sedated, I don't want to leave him home alone, right? And then guess what he's doing when we get home? At least an hour or so after we get home, he's running around, bouncing around, full of energy, like nothing happened. And I'm just like, oh, so I canceled fitness class for nothing. So yeah, there's that. I mean, honestly though, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Because I'm still sore, so that's okay. So yeah, I think this stream is gonna be a lot shorter, just because of, yeah, I mean, it might be. I might sit here the whole time. I'm not really sure. Um, But one thing that is frustrating me is the fact that, sorry, one thing that is frustrating is the fact that there's like a lot of lagginess going on. And I don't know how to fix that, but yeah, just with all my tech side, I don't know if my computer is giving out or something. It's like it can't handle all of the things. I may need to have like a computer, like a PC. Is it called a PC? Like a little desktop computer for streaming, and then a laptop for just when I'm trading on the go. Because if I'm gonna be sitting at my desk trading, like a laptop's good if you're traveling, but if I'm gonna be sitting at my desk, I may as well maybe get something that's a little bit more powerful. I don't know. So we'll see. Let me go back to the chart. Okay. So let's read our verse for today because I haven't read it, and honestly, I haven't really done anything honestly all day except for look at videos of hydro dipping because now I'm kind of obsessed with hydro dipping, and I wanted to hydro dip my slide, but then I was like, why? I kind of like the color, like the the color that it already is. So, but I've been watching like nonstop videos of that. So okay. So today's verse is Psalm 34 verse 18. This is the ESV. It says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." Isn't that true? But no, seriously, I find that whenever I feel the most broken and beat down is when I feel closest to God. I feel like God's closest in those moments. And I don't know if that's because he is closer or it's just there's less stuff separating you. There's less stuff in between. Um it's easy when life is going good and everything's just peachy. It's very easy to feel distant from God. Like you'd think it would be the other way around. Like, at least for me, anyways. I'm just speaking for myself. But you'd think that I would feel closer to God when things are going well. Like, oh, God's doing all of these amazing things in my life. And at times, sure, maybe, right? But you kind of almost have to be super, super intentional because it's so easy to get caught up in the, oh, life's going good, everything's fine. And then you just kind of sit with that. I mean, I do, you know, the house hasn't burned down. Um, the account is still there. The bank isn't over, my bank account's not overdrawn. um Pup is still alive and kicking and not in an emergency room with a $500 doctor bill. The car still works. So yeah, all of these things, and it's like, yeah, there's everything's going good, and it's easy to kind of just get caught into the flow and go through the motions of life and without stopping to think, like I was talking about yesterday, how blessed you really are and how much God is there in those moments with you. Like he's making all of this stuff possible, and then it all gets taken away, and all of a sudden you come crying out to God, and it's like, God, why, blah blah blah. And then you can see God working, right? Like when you don't have a job and you can see God putting the pieces together to where you finally get that job, and you feel so close to him. Like at least for me anyways. And then once you have the job and then the job is like draining you, it's hard, you're not getting those wow moments anymore. And I don't know, sometimes I feel farther away, but it's not because God went anywhere, it's because maybe just I did. I thought sometimes I think I'm doing so well that I try to speed ahead and I tire myself out, you know? And I'm like, "Oh, life's going great, I'm gonna race ahead and I'll see you at the finish line." And then I burn out and then I'm exhausted and I'm like, "God, why? What's going on? Why?" And I trip and I stumble and then I'm sitting there and then God keeps walking, catches up to, I don't know about catches up to me, but he's like, "What you doing on the ground there?" And I'm over here throwing a temper tantrum like, "God, why is all this stuff happening to me?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, I'm the one who ran ahead and tripped on that rock." I sometimes, will get ahead of myself and then create my own little mess, and then I go complaining and to God and like, why, like, "Oh, why is my life falling apart?" Yeah, that's how it feels. It's like you broke. It's like you literally took that plate, threw it on the ground, and then you started crying. "Why is the plate broken? What happened? What did I do?" I don't know. What could you have possibly done? But no, that's how I feel sometimes. Like I'll be just doing life, and then I'll screw it up somehow, and then I'll be whining and complaining, and then God's faithful as he always is. And then, but in those moments, it's I don't know, it just makes it more. I don't know. It's special. It's special. To connect with God like in those hard times. Like when I didn't have a job for 2 months, it was special because I could only rely on God. I couldn't rely on this and that and the third. Could only rely on God and have absolute trust in him. And it was such a cool thing to experience. And I remember a lot of people would ask me, "How are you so calm?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'm going to the beach today, so bye." you know, I didn't have a job and I was going to the beach. I was chilling at parks. A couple times, I just packed a blanket, went to a park with Zazio, and we just took a nap in the park. Did we look homeless? Possibly, but I don't care. It was a great time. And and I wouldn't change anything. I grew closer to God in that time. And so when life's hard, God's right there, right beside you, and he's not gonna leave you in that. He's not gonna leave you in that. And we still don't have any trading set up, so we're just watching it. But I did want to share a story. So this is one of my favorite this is one of my favorite God stories, and it really just shows me it just shows me who God is. Um like when you try to think of, who God is, sometimes it's kind of hard. Like when I try to think of, who am I talking to, right? I want the right image. I want, when I'm talking to God, I don't want to be talking to my version, because my fiance showed me this video this morning where somebody was talking and they were saying things like, "Well, my God looks like me and sounds like me, and my God is a black woman, and she's queer." And I'm just like, "No, that's an idol, right? Because that's made in whatever image you want it to be." So effectively, you know, there would have to be multiple, like multiple God. Like every person in that sense would be their own God or would have their own God, because you can't say, because her whole thing was, "Oh, well, well, if I'm made in God's image, then God must be a black queer woman, right? And that's like, no, no. And so when I talk to God, I want to talk to, God as who he is, right? Not my envisioning of God. And favorite one of my favorite oh, look, there's an entry right there. One of my favorite stories of God that I've witnessed is this. Is this a good entry? Bum, 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 bum. Sorry. So there is a potential entry. Well, there was a potential entry. I said was. We'll just let it play out. Cause yeah. Oh wow, that played out and exited all in like seconds. Cool, 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 cool. Okay, so back to my story, and let me just show you what happened there. So when that came down here, created this. I think that one did. Yeah, created that. And then we were down here for a hot second. We actually probably came down to here. No, I didn't see it. Did it? Yeah, it must have. I actually don't remember. But it did come. No, wait, it was here. And then, yeah, so it was here. And then it came down to like there. And then, yeah, it popped up. Boop. And created that. So that's where I was saying, oh, it looks like there's an entry. But then it jumped up really fast. And so unless I was hitting the button, there was really no good place to get in that. So, I mean, there was, but I was just talking and I was not prepared. So, moving that aside. So that was year one. That's one so far. We're already almost 30 minutes in. Okay, so my favorite story. So, I'm walking Zazio out by the bayou as I do, and he and so we walk out. So first of all, he doesn't typically like to go back there because there's a gate you have to go through, and every time I try to walk him through the gate, he never wants to go unless there's something back here there that he wants. He never wants to go back there. But today, well, not today, this was not today, but this day that I'm talking about was probably like a couple months ago. This day he wanted to go back there, and I'm like, why does he want to go back there? So I went back there, and the funny thing was the gate's typically open, so it's typically open like so that you can just walk through it, but it has a push pad button, like a button keypad or whatever, where you punch in the code and then you just go out the gate. Well, typically it's open because the keypad stopped working, but I didn't know this. So I punched in the keypad, and so there's the keypad on two sides. The story is getting confusing. So to go out, there's a keypad. To come back in, there's a keypad. So the keypad to go outside the gate was working, but I didn't know that the keypad to go back in wasn't working. So I punched in the keypad and I go out. Well, it's time to come back in. And I go and I punch in the keypad and it's not working. And I'm just like, oh crap. Well, it's Sunday and my sister was visiting and we were supposed to go to church. So I'm like, crap. And I was going to go to the store. I was going to do all of these other things this morning. And I'm like, I don't want to have to walk all the way around, like, through the grass and the trees and go through the other side of the property, right? But I was like, well, I can't just stand here and wait for somebody to walk by and then try to hail them down to press in the code, because that's just odd. I mean, I don't want to do that, right? And so I was like, fine, we'll go walking all the way around. Well, typically I don't go walking all the way around. Why? Because the grass is typically very tall, and they cut it like every so often, and so I don't want to run into snakes and all of that back there, because I have bumped into snakes. So I was not Not about to do that. So, um, so yeah, what happened? So then I'm like, fine, we'll go. So I'm like, fine, we'll walk that way. And so they had just cut like the day before. They had just cut the grass. So it wasn't all tall. So I was like, well, good. So I'm on my phone and I have the sound turned up. Um, and also when you walk back there, you can hear the cicadas and they're super like super super loud. Like it's very loud. You can't hear anything. And so I'm walking back there and all of a sudden, right, for some reason I was off my phone, the sound wasn't blasting and the cicadas stopped. They just stopped. And I was like, oh, it's kind of quiet. And I just stood there for a second, kind of listening and just kind of looking off into, I don't know why I stopped, but I stopped. And then I hear this very faint little peeping sound. It's kind of a little squeak, and it's so faint. And I look down, and about 6 inches away from my foot to the right, um, is a tiny baby, like newborn mouse. Like it's so small. I wish I had a picture. But it's this very tiny little baby mouse. And so first of all, there's not it's the grass has been freshly cut. There's hardly any shade back there. Because like there's trees, but where the path is, there are no trees. Now people ride four-wheelers down there, dirt bikes down there, people walk their dogs. There's cats that are prowling this area constantly. And and so I'm like, I stop and I see this baby mouse and I was like, what the heck? I look around, there's no other mice anywhere. It's just kind of in the middle of like this trail, this grassy trail, and it's just so sad. Like, where is its family? It's just all alone. And I'm like, its family probably got killed because when the tractor or whatever mows back there, it just rips everything up. So if they're and it does become very overgrown. So it's very possible that there was a whole mouse nest or something, and then it got destroyed when it got mowed, and so there's just this lone baby mouse. And so I scooped it up and I was like, okay, I took it home. Zazio was trying to see what it was. He was a little too curious. And so I put him in like a little box with kind of like a heated rice sock. And I'm trying to Google like how do you raise a baby mouse, because I love mice. I love mice. But I realized, I can't really take care of a mouse. First of all, because Zazio would probably, if I didn't keep my eye on him every second, Zazio would get to him, like he would. Um, and so yeah, that was, I can't raise a mouse. I cannot raise a mouse, and so I ended up calling like a animal rescue that happened to be open on a Sunday and right before church too. And so I zipped over there, dropped off this little mouse, and I don't know whatever happened to him, but they were like, we'll take care of him. And I was like, you better. um but where was I going with that story? So when I think about that, right, what were the odds? Oh, there's a short position that just opened up. What are the odds that this little mouse, that I was back there, right? Because on a typical day, that gate should have been open, because typically it would have been open. Yeah, so typically it would have been open and I wouldn't have had any issues. I wouldn't have had to walk all the way around. But I did. And then not only that, what are the odds that all the cicadas just stopped? They just stopped making their little chirp. I don't know if you've ever heard a cicada, but they're loud. They are extremely loud. And so, again, cicadas stopped, and this mouse, I could have stopped anywhere. I could have stopped anywhere, and I happened to stop 6 inches, maybe a foot away from where this mouse was. Could have stopped a while back. I could have stopped before. I could have stopped after to just kind of take in the view, but I happened to stop right there. And that's where God comes in, because truly I believe that God looked down and saw this sweet little mouse, this sweet little baby that was so helpless. So helpless. Like, could have been crushed by a four-wheeler riding down, baked by the hot, Texas sun, scooped up by a cat or a snake. And so I just, honestly, whenever I start thinking about the story, sometimes I start crying because it's so beautiful. It's like God saw this little tiny baby mouse that had nothing and no one and was like, gonna give this little guy a chance. And took care of that mouse. He took care of that little baby mouse. And yes, and it kind of reminds me of that Bible verse. Looks like there's a shorting opportunity that just opened up as well, although there's no point, and it just went away. There was no entry unless you were hovering. I'm gonna look up the verse. It's in Matthew, I believe. Let's see. Matthew 6:30. Let me just look that up in my Bible app. 2 seconds. Wish there was a way to bookmark these things. Yeah, let's read that whole section starting at verse 25. So, therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith, or of ye of little faith? And then it goes on to say, therefore do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? And I'll keep reading. For the Gentiles seek after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. And I mean, seriously though, I was anxious I wasn't really anxious all day, but I let a bit of morning anxiety kind of, I wouldn't say ruin my day, but I mean, I've had a stress headache all day. It hasn't gone away. But back to the story, right? The God that cares so much for a tiny little mouse, that he would orchestrate for me to be there at the right time, the perfect time, just to just to help this little mouse. It's such a beautiful thought that if he does that for a little mouse, a little baby helpless mouse, and I don't know if animals have souls. Some people say they don't. I like to think they do. I like to think they're basically just innocent little babies. Even the spiders. But if God cares so much for just a tiny little mouse, how much more do you think he's gonna care for you, for me? And so why do we worry so much about all these little things like food? And this is what got me through not having a job was this just everything about it, having faith that God is who he says he is, and that he cares, like he truly cares for you. And even when you don't see it, he's working. And I know there's a song, even when you don't see it, he's working. He never stops working. And maybe you're that little mouse. Maybe you're that little mouse and you're waiting for the big rescue. And yeah, maybe that thing is not in place yet, right? I mean, that mouse was probably out there all night, probably all the day before evening, and then all night into the morning. So yeah, maybe that mouse was thinking no one's coming to save me, but God just needed to put the right things into place in order to save that mouse, in order to rescue it, right? And so maybe you're in the middle of a storm, maybe you're feeling like you're drowning, and it feels like there is no help. But guess what? God's working. He's working. And it may not be immediate, like the next day. It may take a little bit of time, but he's not gonna let you die or perish in the process, right? Sometimes it feels like that, but God knows exactly what you can handle, right? He's not gonna be like, here, hold this, so I'll use this example, right? Let's say, God's doing some work and he's like, okay, I need you to hold this heavy weight. Okay. You just have to hold it, but don't worry. It's not for forever. Right. So you have to carry this weight, and it's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy, and you feel like you're going to drop it, but God's not going to let you drop the weight on yourself and you get got, right? Like, no, he's not gonna, and I know this is, I hear this is the kind of debated where people say God's not gonna give you more than you can handle. I don't think that it's a question of more than you can handle or not. God's gonna give you what may challenge you 100%, right? Might help you grow, might make you stronger, but it's not going to destroy you, right? You might feel like it's going to destroy you, and if you're not careful, you could let it destroy you, right? For example, God may put somebody in your life that you're supposed to be ministering to. Doesn't mean that if you're not careful, that person becomes a very toxic or bad influence, and then all of a sudden it's destroying your life too. But you don't have to let it get there, right? There's always a way out. I think that's kind of the extra part of that verse is, God won't let you be tempted beyond what you can handle, and there's always some way out. It's not going to be like, well, you're being forced into this, so you know, that's too bad. Like, no. Um, and so, eesh. And so, yeah. Just on that. Whenever things are going difficult, and or even not even just difficult, but when things are going good, when life's maybe just meh or maybe exciting, when I call out to God, the first thing I do is I try to envision that story of the God that orchestrated, that rescue of that little mouse, right? And not just the mouse, right? I also use other examples as well. I use, other people's life stories that I've heard, or just my own life story. I have my own story as well, which I can also share at another time. But, you know, that's how I like to um see God. I mean, I can't physically see him, but it's like, I'm not just talking to some imaginary person in the sky, right? Like, this guy saved me, saved that little mouse, saved my fiance. So, yeah, I don't know. Even though today it was kind of a stressful day, it was a stressful day, but it wasn't a bad day. It really wasn't. Minus the splitting headache, it wasn't a bad day. Um, where are we sitting right now? So, oops. So yeah, I think so we have about 17-ish more minutes before we cut this stream. So I'm just gonna let it play right now. What we have is we have actually, so yeah, let me just count the trades that have happened because the first trade didn't happen until 7:52. So let me just bring this over here so you can see it too. Bum, bum, bum. So here's what we've got. Yikes. Okay. So we have this first long. None of these are really great like running trades because we are pretty honestly, we don't have a lot of movement on any sides, to be honest. We're just kind of chopping. We're chopping down, but we're still chopping. Um and I don't know if there's going to be a breakout in whatever direction, but whatever. So we had this long here, which was good. We had a short here, which was good. We had a short here, which was good. We had a long here, which was bad, but then that turned into a short, which was good. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades, 4 good, 1 bad. So we'll have to tally that up, because we have a negative RR currently. We need 2 good trades to equal out 1 bad trade. So we should be sitting at somewhere like 400 for the day if we don't get any more opportunities in the next 15 minutes. Honestly, this hour block that we've been doing has been providing plenty of opportunities. Because there was one day where there was only 4 and they were all good, and then there was yesterday once, wasn't there like 13 and 11 of them were good. So honestly, there was the first day was Sunday, and that one I think wasn't as great. It was like 6, or there were 9, but there were only 6 good ones. I mean, still the numbers are greater, but But yeah, none of these today were really holding ones. Yesterday we got some holding ones, even the day before we did, but today pretty flat, pretty sideways and down movement. But that's okay. Let's move this up right there. Yeah, I'm still trying to rethink my color scheme. There's nothing wrong with green and red, classic, but I don't know yet. Oh, got a red brick. Looks like we have another opportunity here. Opportunity come and gone. Hmm. Oh, and there you have it. There's another. Can you even see that? 1 second. Yep, you can. So yep, there's another one. Let's see if this one is a runner or it was just a single. We're getting a lot of singles today. There was one with two, but the rest were just singles. So if you notice, it's pretty flat. We keep hitting the same area. Boom, 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 boom. And we buy up every single time. So, I don't know. Are we just bouncing around here to get momentum? Or are we gonna try to sweep and then keep going down? I don't know. But so very easy to see we keep hitting the same level. And when you look on here, 1 second. And when you look here, it's kind of harder to see that. Because you're looking based off of time versus based off of price. So we're seeing we're hitting a price. We're hitting. This is why this is good for price action, like looking at price action, because you can clearly see based on price action. And yes, we're sweeping it, right? We swept it here, and we swept it a little here, and we swept it again here. So I wonder if we're gonna sweep and then try to go up again, or if is this the last one. But because you can see we got a lot more momentum with that one than we did with these, but just more selling pressure. But what I am seeing is here we keep hitting this, right? We keep hitting this price. So for 4,000 and then 90, see, and we bounced up again. So there's something happening here at this price level where we keep buying up, right? We keep coming down, even if you wanted to say here into this 488 to 90 kind of a area, and you could draw a little box and say we keep hitting this. So if I said 490, I don't know, can you draw a line here? So 490, that's close enough. Okay, draw a horizontal line. So yeah, we keep hitting this area. What's by this area? So we broke out of here. This was around 1 o'clock. Maybe a little consolidation here. And then we finally broke away. Then we came back to it. Looks like we swept. And this was at 720. which if you look at 720 here, I remember that because I was here, or I had just popped in. That was when we swept way down here. We bounced around, hit this a few times, a couple times, kept buying up, and now we're hitting this level. So now we're at another level, and there's a, oh crap, I just missed that. There's another long that just happened. So we're actually getting quite a few opportunities here. So we just had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One of them was bad. Interesting. But you can clearly see how we keep hitting this level multiple times and we keep buying up, but we're not buying up really any higher because the highs are up here. So we need to buy up to here. Oh, we just did. Lovely. And then maybe here, because you can see it on this right here. And we're up there. Woohoo. Wow. But you see how it's so you see how it's so clear when you're looking at it here that we keep hitting this and buying and hitting it and buying and hitting it and buying and hitting it and buying. See, with that kind of a pattern, you could just throw in a buy and then cross your fingers. But what do I know? Absolutely nothing. Because here we hit this, let's say, okay, we hit this, this, this. So then you got this. So if you tried to place a buy there, we got taken out. But anyways, nice, love to see it. Love to see it. I do have a time filter so I don't get inundated with noise, but I just didn't put it on there today. Look, man, even if we're not taking trades, it's still good. And why? Because we're still backtesting, right? We're still backtesting real time, not just hindsight where it's all noise or not noise, but it's all smoothed out and then you're not getting actual numbers. We're actually backtesting, so we're getting the real data, real numbers, testing on our time frame, and so it's something that I can look back a month, I can look back 2 months. If I keep doing this for a solid year, I can have a year's worth of data, which is a lot more accurate than, because can you really back test with Renko bricks? Not really, because the data gets smoothed out no matter how you rig it. It doesn't matter. Like it's looking at historical data and it gets smoothed out. And so, because this is what happened, this is why I know this, right? Because I was looking at my numbers and I was like, okay, well, it's smoothing out, but maybe it's not so bad. So I had a system where I was counting where each time. So let me look for an example. So okay, here's a small, maybe there's a better example. Yes, okay, better. Okay, let's just turn this off for 2 seconds. Watermelon package gone. Oh, wait, get rid of this watermelon too. Okay. It's only watermelon because it's green and kind of a pinkish red. Okay, so you see where we have a red and then a green and then a red? This would be 3 flips before a continuation. Well, I don't know if I'll be able to find one. I can use the 3 flip example. Here's another 3 flip example. So green, red, green, and then it continues red, red, right? So basically what was happening was it was morning time. It was like 8 o'clock. I was at a park and I saw this start to happen. So I just randomly entered because, I was paper trading. So I was like, whatever. And I had my other phone. So, and what happened was this chopped, instead of 3 times, it chopped like 6 times. So it was green, red, green, red, green, red, blah, 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 until it finally continued green. Okay. But it chopped several times. And so if you would have entered here, it would have been bad here, bad here, bad here, bad, blah, 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 until it finally went. Well, that was on maybe a Wednesday morning. I don't remember. Well, then the next day, I went back to the chart to that same time zone when I had traded, where there was, 5 or 6 flips that happened. Well, guess what? Guess what happened? So I went back, and instead of there being, I think there were 6. I want to say there were 6. Instead of being 6, there were only 3. There were only 3. It had consolidated. Maybe it was maybe it was 4. I don't remember. Okay, but it had consolidated the number of flips before continuation, and so I had a whole strategy where basically I was like, okay, after between 2 and 4 flips is when there's likely to be a continuation, because it can't keep chopping forever, obviously, right? It can't keep bouncing around and chopping forever. So after between 2 and 4 flips, especially after 4, it's more likely to continue, right? So I wait a certain number of back and forth chopping flips that we get, and then I enter, because there's a high likelihood that it's not going to continue chopping and we're actually going to get movement, right? So sounded smart, sounded good, right? But here's the problem. If back testing shows historically that there's 1, 2, 3 flips happening before a continuation, but the reality is that maybe there were 6 that happened before the continuation, then you have a problem, because now, right? Because now you see, okay, so there were some flips that happened, and so okay, yeah, cool. You just get in after you just get in after like the third one. Sounds easy, right? Or get in after, so 1, 2, 3, get in on 4, right? Get in on the 4th one. Should be, but instead of that 4th one, there's really like a 5th one and a 6th one that happens. And so the numbers just went away, just gone. Like the numbers, the numbers were not looking in real time. They were not as good as what it looked back testing. And that's part of the problem with Renko, is that it will consolidate the information within a time block. Now look at the time blocks, right? So you see how Wednesday, what is this, the 22nd? Okay, so you see how this, can you even see it? It's probably super difficult to see, but there's time. Let me see if I can kind of move my mouse. Yeah, okay, so right down here where my mouse is bouncing around, you can see the time, and you probably can't see it, but it goes down to the second. So right now I'm at 9 o'clock, 9:13, 58 seconds, right? This one was at, this brick completed its formation at 13 seconds, right? Well, now let's scroll back in the time, right? Let's just scroll the mouse to wherever. Let's just stop here. Wait, that was still Wednesday. Dang it. Keep going, keep going. I was like, why is it still Wednesday? And now I swiped the whole thing away. That is great. Okay, I don't even know what happened. Okay, now we're on Tuesday. Let's see what's going on Tuesday. Okay, so on Tuesday, we still have seconds, right? You can see it's 30. Well, you can't see, but it's 34 seconds there. It's 28 seconds here. That's fine. Let's keep scrolling. Okay, still Tuesday. Why was there so much movement? Okay, now we're on Friday, right? Well, maybe I should go to Monday. Okay, that's Monday. Here's Monday. No, we were way up here on Monday before we dropped. So, okay. So now it's Monday. You see where this is? It says 10:32, 0 seconds. 0 seconds. 0 seconds. You see how we were down to this back on Tuesday? See, even on Tuesday here, Tuesday. It was at 1 in the morning, 5 minutes and 0 seconds, right? 0 seconds, 0 seconds. All of these say 0 seconds. So not only, and now right about here, somewhere after midnight, we started counting seconds again. Yeah, so not even after midnight. Okay, so at 17, so at 5 o'clock when the market opened up, and again in the evening on Tuesday, which was yesterday, that's when it starts counting seconds, right? But it's still consolidating flips, right? Because I also tested that real time. It consolidates the flips, but see how this is down to the minute, 9:14, 8:43, but it's not down to the second anymore. So that's a big problem when you're trying to back test Renko, is that, and then it gets worse, right? So eventually it goes down to the hour. It's not even minutes anymore, it's hours. And so um you can't even see, yeah, so this is 7 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 1300 or 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 1700, 2100. There's no minutes, and now there's no seconds. There's no seconds or minutes. Now it's down to the hour. And where is price? It's probably way down here. This was back in September, so I'm guessing it was somewhere. I don't know. I have no. Oh, yes, it was way down here. Lovely. Notice how way back in September we were down here in the 3,600s, and now we're all the way up to like the 4,100s. Pretty cool. But you see how everything is just smoothed out on the hour and it just looks so gloriously easy? Well, it's not, because in between all of this, there was probably a lot of red bricks that were happening that you're not getting to see, right? You see how, let's see, it's like this was 1 o'clock, this was 4, this was 20. So yeah, you see how there's just a little bit of movement here, and then it goes up into midnight, and then the morning and whatever. So all of this, you see what kind of day we had today, where there were about 9 flips and probably more. Well, I don't even know, I forgot. But how the other day there were 13, and then there were 9, and then there were 4. Well, this looks like there were 0, maybe actually one trading opportunity right here would have been a trade right here, and then the rest of it would have not been a trade. But the reality is there's probably a lot more going on in here than you're actually seeing, and that's the biggest problem with backtesting Renko. Let's go to the actual chart now. That's the biggest problem with backtesting Renko, is that you miss a lot of what's actually happening. So now that we have gone over why you can't backtest Renko historically, you have to do it real time. So, the numbers are still good, right? But they're not good in the sense that, oh, this should work. It should work in theory, but you really want to see how it's working in real time, because backtesting is just, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So boop, 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 boop. What happened? Yeah, I was trying to figure out what happened. I was like, what am I looking for? So I was looking for these. Ta-da. Okay, I think I didn't change any settings, so all of that should be fine. Okay, so looks like we got one more. If this doesn't complete by the time I'm done doing my numbers, I'm gonna call it, simply because it's already 8:35 and I was just talking a lot. So yeah, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trades. This might take too long to form. So yeah, we have 7 trades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 of them were decent. So let's just go over to the chart, and then we will, not our chart, but our document tab, and we're just gonna put in all those numbers. All right, so I kind of want to fix this. Like, create just a better sheet. I wish this had dark mode. I think I can add an extension. I did for a different one. Ooh, oh, it's for Google Sheets. Okay. But yeah, so that's what we're looking at. Um, so yeah, 7 trades, 6 wins, 1 loss. That would have been 1,200 in wins, 400 in loss. So about an 800 total day with just a strategy. Remember, yesterday I accidentally entered, well, I didn't actually look at all of the stuff I was supposed to be looking at, so I entered, and so I didn't take any of these, basically. Like, the one trade I took wasn't even based off the strategy. And then, yeah, this one. You let me, I'm gonna create a, let's try to bring this. Yeah, I think this will just be like a end the session with some charting if this actually loads. See, my Google Sheets is in dark mode. I need to add another extension. Eesh, the brightness is too much. Is this blinding anyone else? Just me? I don't think the top's supposed to look like that. Wait, I did want a table. Dang it. Yikes. Okay, so I was attempting to do my charting on the Excel spreadsheet, but I was just talking to my fiance like 2 seconds ago, and he's like, "Yeah, you need a better PC, especially if you're streaming." Because I'm like, what does it mean when your CPU is at 70% or 74%? And he's like, that means your CPU is like the streaming is occupying like 70 whatever percent of your CPU. So yeah, that's why everything's running so slow. So yeah, I may, because I'm working off a laptop right now, but I may just get like a something else so I can run these streams a little better, just because yeah, I didn't know what all that meant. So yeah, I mean it's worked in the past, but I think I don't know. I just have a lot of stuff going on with it, so maybe it is time to upgrade, because I do have like, I thought 16 gigs of RAM was good, but apparently it's not. Okay. Wait, hold up. Babe, you said 16 gigs of RAM is not good, right? It's just mid, right? You're on the stream, by the way.
Uh, yeah, I would like to think that 16 gigs of RAM is pretty mid. If you want, I'm telling you, if you want a reliable PC and get 32 gigabytes of RAM, your computer will be so fast, it's like it's thinking for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, but yeah, that's all for today, and I will probably be back tomorrow. It depends because we're supposed to have a movie date, right?
Yes, of course,
Oh,
of course.
okie dokie.
Some Deadpool and Wolverine.